Hey everyone, welcome to the Crochet Caution Tape, where we discuss true crime, mysteries, and the dark bits of history. I'm Erica, and come along with me as we discuss today's episode covering Shanda Sharer while we work on our crochet. Now, I do need to have a disclaimer with this. This episode does contain violence, brutality, bullying, SA. It's very dark, so keep that in mind. If you don't feel like you can watch this or hear this, just go on by. Now, this story I grew up hearing about. I have known about this since I was a little girl. It takes place in my hometown of New Albany, Indiana. So let's start in 1991, when Shanda moved with her mom to New Albany after her mom and dad got divorced. All right. She went to Hazelwood Junior High, which is 6 years after this happened, I attended Hazelwood Junior High as well. Right down the road from me. So in 1991, whenever Shanda started attending Hazelwood, she met Amanda Heverin, who was 14 and Shanda was 12. And Amanda was her first friend. Their friendship grew really quick. They hung out together all the time, and soon their friendship turned into a romantic relationship. In October of 1991, Amanda and Shanda went to a junior high school dance together. Sounds great. Middle school dances, we all remember them. Well, at this dance, Amanda's ex, Melinda Lovelace, confronted them. Now, Melinda, she was 16, so she was older than both of them. And Melinda was extremely jealous of Shanda and Amanda's relationship. She blamed Shanda for her and Amanda's breakup. She was just harassed them. She thought that if Shanda hadn't met Amanda, that they wouldn't have broken up. Melinda had threatened Shanda multiple times in public, and often was heard talking about killing her. Shanda's mom, fearful for her daughter's safety, transferred Shanda out of Hazelwood Junior High to Our Lady of Perpetual Help Catholic School to try to keep her away from Melinda, to avoid any more confrontations. In January of 1992 is when this all starts. It all turns. Melinda had gotten 3 friends together to help her take her revenge on Shanda for stealing Amanda. Friends were Lori Tackett, who was 17, Hope Rippey, who was 15, and Tony Lawrence, who was also 15. Now, originally, whenever the 4 girls were going out together, Tony, she thought that they were just going to a concert. She didn't know any alternative plans for the evening except for going to the concert until she had gotten into the car. The 4 girls went to Shanda's father's house in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and she was staying there for the weekend. They said that they were going to take Shanda to go see Amanda. And Shanda was like, okay, but come back later when my parents go to sleep and I'll sneak out with you guys. So they returned later on when her parents had fallen asleep, and the only girls that she knew were there were Lori, Hope, and Tony. Melinda was hiding in the back seat under a blanket. So Shanda had no clue. She thought that they were just going to see Amanda. So the three girls, they told Shanda that they were going to take her to the witch's castle in Madison, Indiana, where it was a popular teen hangout. Kids went there to hang out, do all their crazy shenanigans. So she's like, cool, let's go. Let's go see my girlfriend. Then, I said, she didn't know Loveless was in the back seat. As they pulled off and they started driving, that's when Melinda revealed that she was, in fact, in the car. She popped out from underneath the blanket, grabbed Shanda, and held a knife to her throat. She threatens to slit her throat if she didn't confess that she intentionally stole Amanda away from her. These are teenagers. She's 12. Really? Alright. Now, Melinda had convinced the other three to take them to a remote location, not the witch's castle, but a remote location, and try to get Shanda to break up with Amanda. But instead, part of their tactic was to torture Shanda. And I got a knot in my yarn. I'm just going to work that out. They tortured Shanda for 7 hours. They were in a remote trash dump in a densely forested area. It's very difficult. It's just the brutality of this all is just mind-boggling that teenage girls could do this. Anybody can do this, let alone teenage girls. So Melinda and Lori stripped Shanda of her clothes. They repeatedly would be punching her. Melinda would knee Shanda in the head so many times, and she wouldn't stop until Shanda had blood coming out of her mouth. Now, Hope and Tony, they remained in the car during all of this. They didn't know the extent of what was going on in the wooded area. Melinda attempted to slit Shanda's throat, but the knife was too dull to do so. So she stabbed Shanda in the chest multiple times. Then they decided to strangle her with a rope they had brought. Shanda was bound Her wrist, her ankles, they were all bound together, and she was completely defenseless. They had slashed her legs and repeatedly beat her over the head with a blunt object. Afterwards, they threw her in the back of the trunk where they thought that she had already, that they had already killed her. Throw her in the trunk. Then the girls went back to Lori's house to clean up and drink some soft drinks. Another day, it's just another day. Let's go take a shower and drink some soft drinks. The girls were not aware that Shanda was in fact still alive. Then they started hearing Shanda screaming from the trunk of the car. They went back, and Lori proceeded to stab Shanda more times to try to kill her. Then Lori and Melinda hopped in the car and drove off. Hope and Tony stayed back. They beat and sodomized Shanda with a tire iron. How? When I was that age, this was the farthest thing from my head. Getting revenge on somebody. I didn't think about that. Like, how does their brains go so drastic so quickly? Sorry. So, early January 11th, Lori, Melinda, Tony, and Hope were all together again, and they stopped at a gas station to get a 2-liter of Pepsi. They emptied the Pepsi bottle and filled it up with gasoline. Keep in mind, Shanda is still alive in the trunk of their car. They drove to another remote location and pulled Shanda out of the trunk. She's still alive. They wrapped her in the blanket and drug her out into the middle of nowhere and poured gasoline all over her and lit a fire and drove off like they hadn't just done this. Nothing happened. They drove off. And Melinda made them go back just a little bit later to make sure that Shanda was in fact dead this time. They poured more gasoline to ignite the fire more and watched this poor, defenseless 12-year-old writhe in the agony of the burns. She was being burnt alive. Her official cause of death was burns and smoke inhalation. So she was alive during every single bit of her torture. Afterwards, the girls drove off again. Like nothing had happened, they went to McDonald's for breakfast, where they were discussing what they had just done. They were such poor taste, such poor everything. They were making jokes about Shanda's death. They compared their breakfast sausage at McDonald's to Shanda burning. Now later on that morning, a hunter who was going out to his favorite hunting spot came across Shanda's body. He wasn't sure what it was. She was wrapped in the blanket and it had burned. Everything was charred. She was unidentifiable. The hunters left immediately to go call 911 to get them out there to investigate what had happened. What did they just find? Now Melinda, who is just like, yeah, thinking she's all big and bad, she went to Amanda and another friend and bragged about what she had done to Shanda. Bragged about it. And then made them promise not to say anything. Really? Everybody says number one rule of doing crimes is not to tell anybody about them, and here they are just telling everybody all willy-nilly, let's go do this. Later that evening, Tony and Hope, they went to their parents. They said that they had minimal interaction with this. They were in the car during this, like, they didn't know the extent until it was too late. They couldn't stand the guilt of knowing what had happened, knowing what they were part of. So they went to Jefferson County Sheriff's Department with their parents. They told them the whole story, everything that had happened. By the next day, Melinda, Tony, Hope, and Lori were all in police custody. Now the trial. All 4 girls were tried as adults, as they should be. They knew full well that what they were doing was wrong, and the atrocities that they committed. Yeah, tried them as adults, please. And all 4 pled guilty to avoid the death penalty. Surely prosecutors were going to go for the death penalty if there was not a plea deal. Now, Hope and Tony, they were the youngest 2. Like I said before, they were less involved in the torture and everything that was going on. They were involved, but they were the least involved. They were the most forthcoming with the police. They went on their own to tell the police what had happened. They received lighter sentences. Tony got sentenced 20 years, and she was released in 2000 after serving only 9 years of her sentence. Hope got 50 years, and it got shortened to 35 on an appeal, and she was released in 2006 after serving only 14 years. Now, Lori and Melinda, they were the most involved. They're the ones who did the torture and everything. They were both sentenced to 60 years. Melinda, she was angry with Shanda. She was the ringleader of this whole thing. She's the one who put it all together, thought of the idea, and pushed the other girls to do it. She says that her father had essayed her and her siblings from a very young age. Now, experts attribute a lot of her anger to this abuse from her father. I get it. There's a lot of anger if that were to happen to somebody, but you don't go killing somebody because of it. And now, in her years in prison, she became part of ICAN, which is Indiana Canine Assistant Network, where she trained dogs to be support service animals to help those with disabilities. She quickly became one of the most trusted and competent trainers, part of ICAN. Jackie Vaught was Shanda's mom. And she was often had said that if you want to see as close to a person that has absolutely nothing inside them, look into Melinda's eyes, because there's nothing there. Shanda's mom said this. One of the other trainers who also happened to be a burn victim like Shanda showed Jackie a video of Melinda training one of the service dogs. And despite everything that she put her through, she saw someone who was almost reborn. She was compassionate and nurturing, which in the past, like we just said, she said there was nothing inside Melinda, just nothing. So Jackie ended up getting a lot of pushback on what she did next. She felt that in order to honor Shanda's memory, she should donate a dog to ICAN and have Melinda train this dog. A lot of people were like, what? What? But she stood by her decision and was like, you know, Shanda would not want me to hold on to all of this anger. She would want me to do this. She would want to give this puppy a chance. So she donated a puppy named Angel. And Melinda did, in fact, train her. Melinda was just as shocked as everybody at this. But she was grateful for the chance. At this point, it had been 20 years since the incident had happened. Now, even though Jackie has now decided to donate a dog and have a puppy trained every year through ICAN in memory of Shanda, she's like, no, I do not want to see her. I do not want to talk to her. I will do this. But everybody has their limits. She could not face her. Don't blame her. Not a bit. Mm-mm. Now, Lori, she grew up in a very strict religious household where normal teenage behavior was completely forbidden. She was not allowed to act like a normal teenager. Did this stop her? No. It did not. She She rebelled against her parents, shaved her head, and engaged in occult practices. Now, this is the early 90s and the height of the satanic worshiping that everybody was blaming any missing peoples, any murders on. So this didn't help things with that situation. But she engaged in occult practices. In an interview, Lori stated, "I didn't know Shanda at all. I didn't go into that evening knowing anything was gonna happen, wanting anything to happen. I didn't. Peer pressure. That's all it was. It spiraled out of control way too fast. It is something that should have never happened." Now, Lori was released from prison in 2018. Everybody was outraged. Like, how is she released? The following year, in September of 2019, Melinda Loveless, the ringleader of the group, the mastermind of everything, the one who wanted revenge against Shanda, she was released. All four are released. All four are out. They are trying to make a quiet life, not go somewhere where they're not known, which is hard to do in Indiana. Everybody here knows this story. And that, my friends, is the sad, tragic story of a life taken way too soon. If you have any suggestions for another story, whether it revolve around true crime, dark history, or any kind of supernatural mysteries, please write a comment below. Feel free to subscribe and share my content for others that you may think would enjoy this crocheting and talking about true crime. For now, have a good night. Goodbye.